You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr. D, and Mehdi.
Again, let me clarify for the people. COVID-19 is the disease, not the virus. It looks like a ball with the spikes. And at the end of the spikes, they are kind of bulbs, and they will help the virus to stick to other cells and infect them. We don't know where do they come from originally. They are, again, theories, speculations, We are lucky somehow because we have learned a lot from the experiments that took place to develop vaccines against SARS.
All this and more in today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Project, and it's me, Dr. D, and we are bringing in a familiar face from the American University of Kuwait, Dean of Arts and Sciences. I hope I got that correct. It's all right. I think I got a C in his class anyways. Dr. Ali Charara.
Well,
good evening,
man.
Thank you, Dr. D.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Charara. So you've been a professor here at Kuwait for a long time, ever since I was a student in 2006, 7, 8, and 9. What else is in your background there? Obviously you're a biologist, so.
Well, yeah, I came to Kuwait in 2004. I was supposed to be here only for 2 years, but here I am. Actually, I got my bachelor degree in biology at the Lebanese University in Beirut before moving to Canada, where I got my master's and PhD in neurobiology, but focusing mostly on the brain. So I'm a biologist, but also mostly a neuroscientist specialized in the brain too.
Yes, that's good. Now I remember, because I remember you and I had a talk about depression, and you were talking about the neurobiological effect of depression on the brain, and I did the psychological aspect. To this day, I remember that workshop.
I miss these kind of workshops, so probably we need to resume them when the university comes back to work.
Yeah, definitely. I think really more and more people need to understand biological aspects. So it kind of, and even our topic today is very, very familiar. Would probably be very familiar to your background, since you're familiar with viruses and biological aspects. So, Mehdi, you can start with the questions if you want.
Yeah, Dr. Charara, I think the first and the most important question, in any regards to biology, is the evolutionary process of diseases, the human body. And I think the disease part, or the virus part, is what really boggles me. Because, a virus comes out and then builds up immunity to whatever medicines we give it. And this whole thing with COVID-19, which started out in 2002 as SARS, in 2002, 2003. And then it came to the Middle East into the 2012 as MRSA. And now we're seeing it resurface and kind of mutate to COVID-19. So to the best you can, how does this process kind of work from a biological perspective?
Let me clarify one thing. So diseases, they can be caused either by bacteria or viruses. From evolution point of view, we understand more about bacteria rather than viruses, because viruses are still debated until now whether they are living things or not. But I don't want to go too much into the biological aspects of it. Now, the COVID-19, again, let me clarify for the people. COVID-19 is the disease, not the virus. So the disease is COVID-19, but the virus is called SARS-CoV-2.
Okay.
So this belongs to the family of coronaviruses. The corona comes from the Latin term referring to the appearance of the virus. It looks like a ball with the spikes. And at the end of the spikes, they are kind of bulbs, and they will help the virus to stick to other cells and infect them. So this is a large family, coronaviruses. These viruses, they cause sickness. They range from the common cold, basically the cold, flu, and so on, to more severe diseases like the one you have mentioned yourself, the Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS, or the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. So this is a family that had 7 types of viruses. 4 of them, they affect the human. Actually, the 7 of them, they affect the humans, other they affect animals. But in general, this family of coronaviruses, it is thought in scientific community that animals are the reservoir for these viruses. So they infect first animals, and then from animals to humans. 4 of these viruses, we don't talk too much about them. They infect the humans, and humans do not die out of that, including the common flu. The 3 viruses or the coronaviruses that really affect the human are the SARS-CoV-1 that causes SARS, the MERS-CoV, which causes MERS, and lately the SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. So these are the typical viruses that cause diseases in humans, but they cause death, And as you mentioned, SARS was discovered in late 2002. MERS was discovered around 2012, 2013. Interestingly enough, SARS does not exist anymore. So we don't hear about people getting infected and so on, which is the opposite for MERS. MERS basically from here and there we still hear about a few cases also, although it's much less than before. Now the new thing is the COVID-19 disease that's caused by the SARS-CoV-2. And from the name themselves, you can guess, we call it SARS-CoV-1 referring to the SARS disease, and SARS-CoV-2 referring to the huge similarity between the two viruses.
If we had these viruses like 2014, so the 2002, which is the SARS that disappeared, but now you're saying it reappeared with March.
No, the SARS gone. The SARS itself does not appear, but really is a similar virus in terms of genetic makeup to the SARS virus that is reappearing again. It's not the SARS virus, it is a virus similar to SARS. That's why they call it SARS-CoV-2. They have around 80% genetic similarity, but also there are some common symptoms, but also different symptoms.
Okay, so can we chalk up MRSA virus, as you said, that it's still around? Can we just chalk that up to basically because the testing policies in some countries with camels, especially, is not as up to date as the testing policies, for instance, for bird flu or swine flu? Because I know from what I've read in my research that bird flu, they usually go into these farms, test out the birds to see if they have the flu, and that's what kind of stops it from leaking back into the human population. Could we chalk that up to these countries are just not performing the right tests on their camels, and that's why it's still spreading from camel to human, or is it human to human?
No, it was, at least according to the scientific studies that were done at that time, it was really from camels to humans. And that was surprising to the scientific community, because it started in Saudi Arabia. Then some American teams start basically to discover the history, And at some point they released a study that they said, well, it started in Jordan rather than in Saudi Arabia. But then the funding has stopped and the scientific study did not complete or did not reach an end. Now, as I said, coronaviruses, animals are considered the largest reservoir. For example, cats are the reservoir for SARS. Camels is the reservoir for the MERS. Now, COVID-19, they were suspecting birds at first, then they switched to fish, but now most likely the reservoir is the bat. How did it get from the bat to human? This is still unknown. So in terms of MERS itself, again, we don't know how did the virus reach. Normally it affects animals only, but it was discovered that due to the life of baboons and basically farmers, they were not taking care. Somewhere, somehow, the virus got mutated and started infecting humans, showing some symptoms similar to the cold virus, but a little bit different at the same time. And how do they do testing? And this is basically, again, part of your question, Now they have to test every animal. They have to go to the farm. They need to do a nose swab to collect the fluid from the nasal cavity of the camel and then do the test to determine if the camel has the virus or not. And if the camel has the virus, most likely the human will be infected or contaminated. But as I said, in comparison with SARS, SARS has disappeared. We don't hear about it anymore, SARS-CoV-1. MERS, however, is still around, although the rate of infection is very little. Started in Saudi Arabia at some point in 2014, 2015. Some cases were reported in South Korea. But again, when they traced the history of these people, they were working at some point in Saudi Arabia. So again, back to the same origin.
That's interesting because with the new virus and with SARS, because SARS, I mean, I believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, the transmission rate wasn't until the 6th day of actually having the virus, and it was a little bit easier to detect, correct?
Detect. Mm-hmm. That's
Correct.
true. That's what I heard. Yeah.
We don't know that much about the SARS-CoV-2. We really don't know. Why? Because it happened late December or mid-December 2019. And suddenly, the rate, as you mentioned, the rate of infection started to get higher and higher. We knew nothing about the virus. Only the scientific information started to be released a little bit. But every week you hear some information that contradicts the information that you heard last week or the week before. So we don't know that much information. The only thing is the general information that we know about the coronaviruses as a family.
So why China then, you think? Why it started in China? Dr. Ali, I was just reading an article, I think it might have been New York Times, where someone was analyzing things and they said that maybe it doesn't really have anything to do with animals or even like seafood or the sea market where they just closed, in China, the first thing they did, they closed it. So I think that you're right, is like oftentimes, there's an understanding of this virus and how it originates. And then you get these scientists that are coming around saying, well, really, it was human to human. Animals had nothing to do with it. Seafood had nothing to do with it. The market had nothing to do with it. So they've closed it for no reason. There was no one really that ate a bat and, how the bat transmitted the viruses. So I think a lot of times, even though we're educated, there's a lot of people that are like, limited in their education. And when you read a lot of these mixed messages I think that generates a lot more fear, because if you know a story once and then you feel like, okay, so I know where it originates, then you can have an understanding. But when people constantly and scientists constantly start writing, no, it had nothing to do with animals and it's really, it was transmitted, and then no, people knew about it. And it started with American military who really went to China, and then they had, transmitted the viruses in there, and then it generated in China. So I feel to me is like a lot of confusion about the understanding of what should you do and how can you understand this. And do you think as a biologist it's really important to understand where it originates? Or do you feel like now we know about it, what should we do to be more proactive in protecting ourselves?
Actually, it is both. It is important to know the history, where did the virus come from, but also what do in case there is an infection and so on. Now, it is important to put basically an emphasis on one point. The case of COVID-19, it happens at a time completely different than MERS and completely different than even SARS. The availability of social media. Social media is a blessing, but also is a curse at the same time. A blessing because it makes the information very easily available to the people, but yet there are so many fake information or illogical information are there and being transferred from one account to another, from one person to another. Now, scientifically speaking, we really don't know how, if bats or fish or even birds are a reservoir for SARS-CoV-2. Why at this point in time start to infect the humans? Because Chinese did not change their diet or their food habits.
Exactly.
So that is one question. All right.
Yes.
Now, politics comes into perspective, the people, how they view China and so on. Because also in Wuhan, where the epicenter of the virus, there is the largest biological lab in China. Now, some scientists, not based on evidence, that's stipulations, could that virus be human-made? And again, we don't know. The other day or last week, something came from Russia. They said this virus is man-made, is not biological. So there are a lot of hypotheses, I would say, around these. They have to be further studied in the lab to determine which one is the accurate. May never know.
There's such a conspiracy theory,
I mean,
Today I was working out.
let's forget about the conspiracy theory, Dr. Charara. Here's a question from, and this goes back to 1990 with another disease that derived within animals, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, which was mad cow disease. Now,
The mad cow, yeah.
yeah, so that started in animals, and we know that. I think that was heavily researched over the years. Is this something that is going to keep happening to humans the more we consume animals, basically?
Animal, or maybe is this going to continue happening because we're not testing animals the way we should be testing them, because there's not a lot of funding. I mean, think about the funds that even in the American government, how much funding is it really designated to be testing animals? And you're right, Mahdi, is like most everything virus we've talked about is that has some sort of a relation to animals, and maybe we're not testing them the right way. I don't know, Dr. Ali, what do you think?
I agree, Portia. Now, viruses, as I said, we don't know where do they come from originally. There are, again, theories, speculations, The mad cow disease, scientists, there were many scientific studies. They did report how basically the cows developed that. And when we eat the cow, then we take the virus from the cow. No, or the cow, not the cow itself, but at least the meat, whatever. The animals were raised in a particular way. They were fed animal products, and that basically led to the onset of the virus itself. So the way to raise animals, remember, we are living in a society that money is God. Any company wants to have so much earning in a very quick way. So animals, at some point, they were treated with antibiotics to enhance their growth. And then that led to so many side effects. Now, again, farmers, they try always different things. So they were fed with other animal products. So rather than buying a certain type of food or wasting certain type of product, a wasted product from other animals, they decided to feed them to the cows at that time. This is what led to the onset of the virus. But now we don't hear anymore about the virus itself, why they took care of the animal food. And now we are moving into the organic part, whether organic meat or organic vegetation, plants, and so on. Just to say, basically, these animals are fed healthy, living healthy, and so on, similar to the plants.
I mean, in some places that might be true, where they're trying to be able to raise vegan animals, but then remember that globally, they're probably meat product that we're eating that comes from other countries are not equipped to be able to feed these animals in the proper way, or that they are not really taking care. As you said, it's like, the society has increased, which means that we have to feed a lot more people. And because we want to feed more people, then we have to, inject them with a lot of hormones to be able to grow them very fast in order to meet the supply demand, right? So I think that that's true. And I think that, do you really think this is like nature trying to push us to be vegan or to be more organically aware, you think? Or do you think that this is just going to happen regardless?
In the race of civilization is giving us good things, good lifestyle, easy life, and so on. But at the same time, this is a price. We want everything fast, fast growth, fast at every level, even when we work, even when we are in the car, everything fast. And we see it in the youngest generation is very evident. So we are paying the price. Now, are we paying the price? Is God punishing us? Is something else? We really don't know. But that following the news, the social news in particular, referring to the COVID-19, it pushed people to have solidarity and union, because now the human society, across the political views, across religion, irrespective of all these factors, all countries are facing something that cannot be visible by the human eye. And that showed how a human being is weak. So when we are weak, we tend to seek other help from other forces, other sources, and so on. So In Kuwait, in particular, there is a lot of control in terms of the quality of food, to be honest. Now, I don't want to start comparing to the US or Europe. In many areas, we are at advantage. So the municipalities are exerting a lot of control, surveillance, and monitoring food, quality of food, how we manipulate food, the meat, cows, sheep, whatever. So we are blessed in one way or another to be in Kuwait. We have to have that level of control. So when people were suffering from the mad cow disease, Mahdi, in Europe and the US and so on, did not talk about in Kuwait due to the level of control and surveillance done by the municipalities.
That's a good point, because we see that everyone's going on lockdown, and the whole key term right now is flattening the curve, and not allowing that big rush of people to go into to jump into the hospitals like in Italy. But my main question, after hearing everything that you've said about the virus and how we really don't know that much and how it's kind of mutated from one thing to another, can we expect this virus to mutate further as humans become the carriers to it? You see a lot of speculation, like you said, on social media about, they say young people are the carriers and old people are the sufferers. So what do you think of that? Can we expect it to mutate more and maybe become airborne at some point?
Because little information is known, all predictions are on the table. However, what we learn from other viruses within the same family. So scientists, again, they are divided. So some scientists, they are saying, well, it's going to be like a flu. That's a seasonal virus. When the temperature is going to be hot, it's going to be above 25 degrees Celsius, and the virus will die. Others, again, they are comparing this COVID-19 disease or the SARS-CoV-2 to other viruses. However, MERS, for example, appeared in September, if I do remember, in Saudi Arabia, where the temperature was still hot. So now, in terms of this SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus that we talk about, what's going to happen to it? We are open to all predictions. It may disappear. It may stay with us. However, because, again, we learn from the experience of other viruses, we are hoping that the human himself will develop kind of immunity against the virus, even if the virus is still there. And this lesson is learned from the flu virus. The flu virus mutate on a yearly basis, and yet it does not disrupt the lifestyle or the life of people like it is happening right now. What is happening right now is scary. Now, Dr. Juliet can talk more about it.
About our fears.
Because we don't know, we have no treatment for it. And that is the scariest.
I think that also is because we don't understand it very well. But like all the literature is moving toward understanding the virus, just like the flu virus. And a lot of experts you see on on TV or the social media saying the reason why, because a lot of people have this question, is like, this is just like the flu. More people are dying of flu in comparison to the statistic we have. But we don't put people on lockdown. We don't worry about the flu, but we worry about coronavirus. Like more people have died of other things, like polio, for example, or pneumonia, but still we didn't have the reaction that we have now. And like you said, I think possibly it's because we still don't understand it, and we don't understand the roots of it, and there is a lot of conspiracy theory. I want to go back to conspiracy. I think I love talking about conspiracy theory. I think we will go back.
There's no politics on the show, Dr. D. Come on. We don't want to get put off air.
But conspiracy theory, I love that. They're so suspicious. But the idea is that maybe if there's more scientists that understand. I mean, I was reading another article that's saying that they were already studying this, but there was not, in the US, and they were already trying to come up with some sort, maybe because when they saw SARS and MERS, they wanted to get some treatment for it, but then there was not enough funding. A lot of times in North America, some funding does not exist for things that are like not really affecting. It's too bad that in science, we tend to be reactive, not proactive. While now we're probably going to work very hard to be able to find a virus. So the idea is that a lot of times is because we know the flu and we know there's a flu shot and there's prevention for it. We don't worry about it, but because right now we're only in the testing level. Like now we know how to test for corona, but we don't know what to do with it. as much. But also because a lot of people have a misconception about everyone that has corona doesn't have to die. It's the same thing as everyone that has the flu will not die. Some people will die and some people don't. So I think the more we become aware of the treatment, aware of what to do with it, we'll be more ready next time. It wouldn't be a global crisis. That's my,
Yeah. Oh, well, if I want to just chip in regarding the conspiracy theory, it's part of
I love conspiracy. Mahdi,
I mean,
please.
in our region at large, we love it.
You got to, hold on, Mahdi, you got to tell Dr. Ali about your mom's conspiracy theory. I love it.
My mother thinks that this was planted in so it would take out all the old people, all the weak people in society, and kind of, revamp our aging population across the world. And in reality, I think it comes down to immune system. Younger people have better immune system. When you're older, your immune system isn't as strong. And, Dr. Charara, I'm sure you can dive into that, even with the brain and brain plasticity. The older you get, the harder it is to retain information and everything. So when viruses like this pop up and the conspiracies pop up, honestly, I leave it to the scientists and the quacks to kind of decipher it. But to me, it's like, let's survive and get through this period,
But that is the burden of the social media. As I said earlier, the social media is a blessing, but at the same time, puts a lot of stress and pressure on the society. And most often, the information is shared on social media and we don't make sure that the information is right or wrong. And people just, because they are weak, because there is no treatment of the virus, because there isn't something new, just people are scared or are stressed out. There is the anxiety level is very high and so on. So when I said scientifically speaking, all possibilities are on the table. All possibilities are on the table. It could be made by the nature, but again, there are some questions that have to be answered, or it could be man-made, which is
it can be man-made, right? It can be man-made. It's not impossible. And it could be man-made, and it could be that, Mahdi's mom's theory. To be honest, Mahdi, I want to tell your mom she's not the only one. Yesterday, I spoke to several of my clients had the same theory. So tell her she is maybe thinking the same as some people.
Again, they're your clients for a reason. My mom should be one of your clients,
I couldn't believe the ideas is that there are quite number of people, I won't say a lot, at least from the ones I've spoken to, but actually there are also few articles that I have read that have said this, whether it's man-made and whatever the politics of it, where people, and like I said, I think because people don't understand viruses, they don't understand why this is such a big thing. Suddenly, why is globally it's affecting everyone. So of course people are going to sit around at home doing nothing but thinking of the conspiracy theory. But like you said, Dr. Ali.
Dr. D, I'll humor you with the conspiracy theory. Here's a question, Dr. Ali. Now, could they have designed this? And if someone wanted to, if I were to do this, if I were to design a virus to attack a specific group of population, I would definitely design it to make it that one part of that population is asymptomatic and they're the carriers. And correct me if I'm wrong. Because they're saying right now, some of the information that's being surfaced is people in their 20s to 30s are the carriers. They're not exhibiting any symptoms. And whether that's true or not, I mean, in reality, that's the perfect weapon. Is that possible?
Is that possible, Dr. Ali? Somebody would be carrying, thank God, it's 20 to 30, then I'm fine. Dr. Ali, you and I are fine. Now, Mahdi, you could be one of them.
No, look, let's be factual. The number of scientific studies related to SARS-CoV-2 are very little. And we are learning as we are dealing with the virus. So when you talk about the conspiracy and science, when the virus onset started to happen in China, everyone was saying, well, China does not know what to do. The Chinese people, they don't have a good hygiene, good diet, and so on. But when China went aggressively to fight against the virus, and now they were able to contain the virus and even the number of deaths. Now, suddenly, the social media and the news and the people's opinions start to shift. Why don't we follow what China has done, what Taiwan has done? So people opinion do change. But I want to insist on the fact that we know almost nothing about the virus, where did it come from, and what is the best way to fight against the virus. Just before I go on with you, I was reading that the Chinese have revealed a medicine against the virus. It's an antiviral, it's not a vaccine. And this medicine was developed in Japan in 2014. They were looking for a medicine against SARS. And now, because SARS has disappeared, they are not using it. They decided to try it on 70 patients, and it was successful. However, no side effects and so on. But 70 people, 70 patients, the number is not significant.
That's a small sample size.
So, it's small sample.
Yeah.
However, it is a promise. And again, now with the news, you hear like Germany is testing a vaccine. The US is testing vaccine. China is testing 3 other vaccines and so on. So again, now we are not fighting for food. Now we are fighting whose country is going to develop the best medicine. And this is where politics comes into.
So, Dr. Ali, just to go back a little bit, so there's a possibility that someone could be carrying the virus and not really show the symptoms? So it's not true that everyone will show the symptoms after 2 weeks?
That's why the incubation period of 14 days, because someone can be having the virus, can be infected with the virus and not showing the symptoms.
But they will show it within the 14 days. But are there people that will not show the symptoms, but they could be, like, for example, you read a lot of research on that we're all cancer. We all carry cancer cells, but some of them are dormant and some of them are activated. So we're all carriers of cancer cells. But people that have genetically predisposition, your diet, whatever, activates these cells. That's why some people have the cancer and some people don't. But we're all carriers. So is the virus is the same way? Could it be possible that we're all carriers and then we just don't get activated?
No, it depends on the immunity of each individual. So normally the incubation period is different from one person to another. Some people, if they are infected day 1, they will show the symptoms the 3rd day. Some people, they show the symptoms the 7th day. Some people, they show the symptoms on the 10th day. Most of the people, they show the symptoms within 14 days, within that time frame. And that's why they set the incubation period at 14 days. Exceptional speaking, in some cases in China, the symptoms start to appear 27 days after the person tested positive for the virus, but no symptoms. So again, the scientific studies there are little, and the World Health Organization is advising all countries just to take the incubation period. The minimum is 14 days. That is basically where when most of the patients start to show symptoms, if they show symptoms. Sometimes they don't show symptoms. This is a very rare sample. They don't show the symptoms and they test negative after the virus has disappeared. Now, where did the virus disappear? Again, scientists in China, they are trying to collect the antibodies. These are molecules produced by the immune system to fight against the virus. However, they need to be collected from a blood sample. If we can collect these antibodies, can we generate them and we provide a medicine against the virus? So there are a lot of studies out there now is about who's going to arrive first at the medication.
When we talk about the vaccine and the medication, I mean, typically in the United States, it goes through the FDA and it goes through years and years and years of approval processes and retests and whatever. And in Europe, they say it's a little bit faster. And here, I mean, I'm really not sure, to be honest with you. But in general, how long does it typically take to create a vaccine or a medication to serve the purpose of either defeating the virus itself before it goes into pneumonia or pre-pneumonia, or a vaccine so that, it's kind of like the flu shot or chickenpox shot? I mean, how long does that usually take?
Vaccine in general, a year or more. Between 1 year and 3 years, depends. Because there are certain rules that pharmaceutical companies need to follow when they are generating a medicine to be used in a human. Now, because the competition is taking place between the US and Germany, between Germany and China, between China and the US and other countries, the competition is at high. That's why they start reducing a little bit of their rules. So rather than the medicine, for example, will take 3 years and a half, 4 years, and so on, they will reduce it up to 1 year. And that's the scary part. This is where yes, you have a medicine, but you don't know the side effects until basically a full cycle has been completed, and that is the risk too. And that's why most of the vaccines that were announced against AIDS, they turned out or they revealed later on they have many side effects. So, in terms of scientific rules to generate a vaccine, it requires 1 year and more. Now, in the case of this virus in particular, because it belongs to the family of coronaviruses, we are lucky somehow because we have learned a lot from the experiments that took place to develop vaccines against SARS and against MERS. So scientists are taking advantage of these studies and trying to speed up the process. So we are lucky one way or another with that.
That's good
So
to know.
I guess until they start to develop the proper cure for it, we should always take precaution and be able to follow the rules of the country in order for us to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. But Dr. Ali, have you heard that? I was hearing that China has pretty much, not recovered fully, that China's starting to recover and that slowly they're going back to their normal routine. Have you heard that? Even though they don't really have a virus, obviously they don't have the vaccination, but they seem to are starting to get back to normal. Do you know why, or is that because
they were aggressive in the way they attempt to contain the virus? So first of all, they isolated Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus. Luckily, basically, they blocked the road. I heard even basically they blew up the bridges. They kept only one bridge to have access to the city for medication and others. So they were very aggressive. Again, because the population in China is very high, they were able to manage, the Ministry of Health was able to manage thousands and thousands of doctors, nurses, and so on to help in their efforts. They were going from one house to another, and people also they listened. They complied with the rules and so on. In our region, unfortunately, we don't listen. We take everything we belittle everything that the government says, and so on. Even in Kuwait, and so
that really makes me mad. When the rules are straight, you stay home, only leave when you need to, and you still got people that are like confused, don't want to listen. They even had to close the beaches because people were like having picnics and gathering.
True.
Are people not understand that? Do you really think the government wants to close all these places, or do they really want the restaurants to be closed, or they don't want us to have fun with our friends? Obviously, these are measures that a government has to take, which I totally appreciate, because I could see how other countries haven't handled it half of the way we've done it. But then you get these people that make me mad, that continue to want to just surpass the law, don't want to listen until the country. Even today, I was reading the news, and they were saying that, again, the parliament is saying, if you guys don't listen, we're going to have to put curfew. Now, why? We're adults. We should understand. We know the rules. And the curfew might be 6 to 6. Are these people understanding what is necessary for you? What is so difficult about going home? I understand. Some people don't like home. Some people don't like the people they live with. Some people are just their personality. They love to be. Or maybe because we've lived this like free. I was telling Mehdi the last time we were doing podcasts, is that some people just use their house as a hotel. So now suddenly you tell them, you got to stay. There was a commercial the other day. It's like a Kuwaiti commercial. I don't know, Mehdi, if you've seen it, where like the family's eating lunch, and the dad is there, and the mom is telling the kids, don't worry, this is not a stranger. He's your dad. And it was like really funny. But that tells you like a lot of times people are like staying together. They have to eat with people that they usually have not been around. And I understand some people psychologically, the house is not a safe environment for them. But why make it difficult for us who are following the rules? Why would I want to go to the beach and have a picnic when they've closed malls and they're closing financial opportunities and stores, and people are staying without jobs? Like if the country is taking these extreme measures to protect me. And you cannot believe last weekend, people just like meeting at the beach to have picnics, families going there. That is ridiculous.
Right, which is
because
not
we don't listen. We don't listen. And I don't know if it's just this region, or even like my friend lives in Qatar. They just closed the restaurants and bars there because the same thing. There's somebody had taken pic there. Again, there is a global emergency. There is a pandemic. And here it is. People are partying at this restaurant, bar, whatever they call it there. And he said lots of people took social media pictures. And then after that, they posted it. And after that, the government closed all restaurants and all bars or whatever activities.
Actually,
it's so funny. Like, what is wrong with these people? Even if I don't have to tell the government, didn't have to tell me to stay home. I swear, since the National Day, and you know me, Dr. Ali, and even Mahdi, I'm very busy. I'm out of the house all the time. Since then, I haven't really been out that much. I've gotten to know my children again. But I mean, I don't have to have someone telling me you gotta, stay home or limit your times of being with other people. This is something I should be thinking myself for my family.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't understand these people.
Well,
and then you could get people. Yes. Sorry.
So this is part of our civic responsibilities.
Exactly.
One must commend the Ministry of all the efforts they are doing, to be honest. And now they are becoming a role model in the region. Other countries in the GCC and the Middle East are following what Kuwait started to do weeks ago. And I think the efforts they have made, they are still doing, are contributing to the containment of the virus. However, as you said, Dr. Juliet, the people, when they don't listen, they aggravate the situation and they make the issue much harder. And that's proven when you hear every day what the Ministry of Health says about the cases. They will tell you one case, let's say, came from UK, and 3 people were in contact with that person. One case came from country X, and 4 people were in contact with that person. So even the concept of self-quarantine was not well done. But I think the country is learning quickly, and the people are trying to respond. I read in a couple of newspaper this morning that 80% of the population is agreement with the curfew in case the government goes that way. So these are efforts that, to be honest, that China have done aggressively from day number one, not basically a week or 2 weeks. I think they have learned from their experience with SARS. So they were very, very aggressive. And also people there, it was impressive the way how they listened to the government. They did not get out at all, and so on. So China was able to contain the virus because of the aggressive measure they have taken, and now other countries are trying to follow the China model. In Kuwait, they are way ahead of the game in terms of what the WHO is telling them to do, and they are doing a great job so far. Let's hope each person, each citizen will contribute to the effort by not shaking hands, by maintaining hygiene, by maintaining distance, and all these measures. This is very important. Prevention is a key issue in fighting against the virus.
And Dr. Charara, one last sciencey question, one last geeky question for me, which I never did in your classes.
And then can I go to conspiracy again,
You
please?
can go to conspiracy as much as you want, Dr.
Please, thank you.
Dr. Charara, now there's been a lot of experts that have come out over the past few days, and just to give you the question simply, say we live in a perfect world. Do you think isolation and flattening the curve will actually work globally, as some countries are reporting light cases like Argentina, South America, Australia, parts of Africa, some of them where it's summertime and winter hasn't hit them yet and that flu season hasn't hit? Say we shut down all the borders, we shut down everything. Do you think it's actually possible to eradicate the virus so that we can eliminate the spread throughout the year? Or do you think this is something that might be with us forever?
That's a good question.
Actually, both prediction or possibilities are on the table. Normally, when we talk about the peak of the virus or flattening the curve, is referring to a bell curve. So you start basically with the rate of the infection very little, and one person will infect 2 will infect 4, and so on. And at some point, we reach a peak, and then after that, with the efforts and so on. Now the peak will become less and less, and we the curve is flattened. Now, interestingly, before I answer your question, China's results and actions, they were against the bell curve. They were against the curve itself. It's not just to flatten the curve. They have done an impressive job in terms of scientific analysis. So they did not flatten the curve. They fought against the peak itself. They played with the peak and so on. Now, other countries, that's because China has the tools too. Now, other countries like in Italy and France, they were gotten by surprise, to be honest. And they are trying to flatten the curve because the health system is not ready. So in Kuwait, that's why I'm saying we are blessed that the ministry is doing an impressive job. In other countries, they are not ready. The health system is not ready to fight against these high number of cases. If you see the pictures and the videos that are coming out from hospitals in Italy, it's a pity, Just you look what doctors are trying to do and is not showing any progress or any gradual positive effect. So countries, they are trying to flatten the curve, as you are saying, as much as they can. The idea here is just they don't want to put a huge pressure on the health system because were not fully ready for that. They don't have the right equipment. Everyone now is trying to buy masks, disinfectants, and so on, medicine, masks, whatever, and people are not ready. The countries are not ready at all.
And that's a scary thing because it hasn't even peaked in the United States and hasn't even come close. In their medical system, I mean, it's going to be proven all the flaws that they have in their system. And I think we saw that in Italy, and it's going to happen in the UK also. And this was my point beginning.
And I, to be honest, I think that it's because, at least for America, I think that they were not proactive. They were just reactive. At first, they acted like, because the symptoms being so close to the flu, New York Times saying, it is very close to the flu. But I feel like the country, the people just minimize the importance of what this really means. And now that I'm so surprised that now they are taking all the measures we've been taking for the last 3 weeks. Do you know that the schools just closed? My friends were saying just yesterday, the schools just closed. We've been closed for the last 3 weeks. And it is annoying because we have to deal with our kids, but still, the idea, I'm worried more about, how you're going to get these students to be able to make up all the missed information. But that's beside the point. I was telling Dr. Ali, oh my God, how are we going to make up all this? I'm worried for my students. And Dr. Ali is like, don't worry about it. The most important is the health of our student and the safety, which, and then I thought to myself, Wallah, you're right. Why am I stressing? I think that's very important. Whatever way we're going to do it, we'll do it. They didn't want to interrupt their educational system. My colleagues who are professors, just 2 days ago, they started doing online. Just 2 days ago. So can you imagine how late they are in the process? Because I think that people were not taking this seriously and they were thinking, what the hell? And now they don't have enough food supplies. They've run out of toilet paper, which has been the joke of the global. They don't have a lot of their necessities that they need. And that saddens me, to be honest, because there are lots of people they are going to hurt before they can find the proper measure,
Actually, when you start reading the news, I was following the news in the US closely. You need to read in more than one newspaper, more than one analysis to just to figure out what's going on. When the virus onset started in China, the US took a different approach, While the CDC, at least some people in the CDC were saying, no, we need to take measures and so on. Now, due to the FDA rules, the WHO organization was distributing the RT-PCR, which is the machine that will allow to test for the virus in patients. Due to the FDA rules, the US did not accept the machines from the WHO. They decided to manufacture their own machines. Now, only 10 days later or 2 weeks later, they discovered that 70% of the machines, they were defective. So many cases, they were tested negative, they were false results. And then the minute they corrected the error, now the number of cases start to go up in the US. But they were a little bit late in the game. I just hope that the situation will be contained, We don't wish any bad things to anyone. I was talking to a friend whose sister lives in the US. Her sister is sick. She's showing some of the symptoms of COVID-19, but she was not able to get the test because the test itself, the kit, is not available in the state where she lives. So that shows you that in Kuwait, everyone is blessed to have the resources necessary to do the testing and the treatment and so on.
And for free.
And for free.
It's
and also
even for free.
And that's what basically creates a positive environment. Remember, in medicine, the inner state or the inner feeling plays a big role. We call it the placebo effect or whatever. The psychological reaction, Dr. Juliet. So when people fear, they are optimists. They will fight against the virus. The immune system will help a lot. However, if they are pessimists, if they are depressed, if they are stressed out, the opposite will take place. Do you agree with me, Dr. Juliet?
Yeah, of course. Definitely, I do. I was just thinking that the idea of the people saying here is like, why do we have to get tested? Why do we have to do this? Why would you do that? And realizing that these are things that people are complaining about, that really it's all implemented because they want to keep us safe and not because they're trying to impose on us any extra measures that we don't need. And here your friend's sister, and actually it's true because my family were saying the same thing. First, they don't have enough the swab kit, and then they have to order some more. So a lot of times some of them are not being tested except by temperature and not really the proper kit because they don't have it. And here we are very blessed with a lot of things, and people are complaining because they don't want to be tested and they don't want to have to deal with any of these extra measures, so that way they don't have to, they don't have to.
To correct you guys, we had Dr. Yasmin on the show, and I talked to her after, and my cousin's a doctor also. And
is she the one from Eril? No.
No.
Yeah.
That was
Yasmin
Laura.
here?
Yasmin's here, yeah. And I spoke to several doctors, and my question was, Mishra Fairgrounds, what type of testing is going on? And they're not doing the swabs.
Yeah, I want to know that too. Was there swab?
No, they're doing the temperature. And it was reported that a lot of people were going in there taking ibuprofen and taking Adol and Panadol before the temperature check, and their temperatures were a lot lower. And the running joke is like, in Kuwait, people always try and cheat the system. And I mean, honestly, with expats, I don't blame them because they don't know what's going to happen if they get put in quarantine.
Because they worry about being sent back.
Deported,
Is that why?
Deported or put in quarantine. But I mean, Dr. Charara, the spread of that, I mean, just by having, 3,000 people in one hall, even if they are a meter apart, like one person has it, how many people are going to get it?
Well,
but if they're not touching anything, right, doctor? If they're not touching anything and they're just sitting in that chair and there's a space in between them, no one is.
And people
aren't you supposed to touch an object? Yeah, and you're supposed to touch an object. Yeah.
So I think basically they were applauded by the WHO by the efforts they were doing. Yes, some people, they were trying to cheat the system, but this is where the civic responsibility is important. They are cheating the system, but they are harming themselves and they're harming others and their loved ones, which is not a good approach. However, I think they learned by the second or the third day of the testing that was taking place, they improved the efforts and things were working, because they will ask, what I heard, they will ask a couple of questions before taking even the temperature and so on. And then people are directed to particular rules, particular directives that they need to follow when they are self-quarantine and so on. But again, irrespective of what the government does, even when they put people in jail, if we don't follow the rules, it's going to be tough. So a part of our responsibilities as citizens of this country, irrespective of the nationality, is to help the government one way or another and to increase awareness.
It's exactly right. The other day, another doctor was saying one of their patients had just come from Italy, and I don't know where, another place, Italy, France, whatever. And I'm like, when? And they're like, March 10th. I'm like, isn't she supposed to be self-quarantined? Isn't she supposed to go get tested? And she's like, no, she hasn't done any of that because she has no symptoms. I said to my friend, if I were you, I wouldn't even see this patient. Why? Why would you want to see her? I mean, obviously they're protected in the clinic, but why did? And then he's like, when he asked her, have you gone to get checked, or have you gone, you shouldn't be out or whatever. And she's like, no, I didn't have any symptoms. No need for me to go. So I think it boils down to our, responsibility, our civic responsibilities, our duties, and having some. I'm thinking to myself, why would this person want to put other people in jeopardy, herself in jeopardy, because she just decided, oh no, I wasn't in contact with anyone. I mean, she was in Italy. And so I was thinking, why, and I said to my friend, did you even tell her to go, or you should have encouraged? And he's like, she was just animate about, no, I don't want. Some people don't even want to know if they have the symptoms or not, which is fine, but just stay in your house. Don't be outside. Don't come to the doctor's office. Don't do anything. And stay with whatever you need to do. If you want to feel like you don't really are interested in getting treatment. I feel like they are putting us at risk. These individuals are not taking their responsibility very seriously.
Absolutely.
That's very true. And Italy, I don't know, is it getting better, you think? Has Italy done anything? I know some Chinese doctors have gone there.
They are lacking manpower, but also they are lacking supplies.
Oh, they are lacking supplies.
Yeah.
But I know that they've closed all the borders. They've have put a lot of extreme measures for people to curfews. Most people are not allowed to go. So they've done the same thing. They've closed the whole town. Vatican closed. The Pope said no one can visit anywhere. So they have done that.
The issue from Italy, and this was what Laura said, is a lot of people got it, like Dr. Charara said earlier, like 10 days ago, and then they gave it to their entire families, and they didn't know it, and then they gave it to their friends, and then it just kept, the cycle keeps going. I mean, they reported 3,000 cases, I think, yesterday or the day before. And that was, just so the listeners know, it's March 18th, that was March 16th or 15th. And there was a huge spike of like 2,500 and then 3,000. So, I mean, they haven't even peaked. The prediction is they're going to peak in 3 weeks. That's why I think us thinking we can eradicate it and then have safe travel again because we travel so much, I don't think it's plausible. I mean, it would be great if we could. It would be awesome if we can kick Corona's ass. But realistically speaking, I mean, it hasn't hit Argentina.
We have to be optimistic, no?
But I was also wondering, do you guys really think another month or two this will be finished? Or do you think this will take us all the way to 6 months? Do we need 6 months or do we need a month? And can the salons please open soon? Because this is my only crisis.
You want the salons, I want the gyms.
I'm just praying
all options are on the table. So. But because we don't know really the answer, the only thing we can do is just cooperate with the Ministry of Health rules and regulations, and let's hope for the best. That's the only thing we can do,
Yeah, it's true.
At this point in time.
But I'm sure that they're going to give us a little bit more of a freedom in another month or two. It all depends on how much we are controlling it, or it depends on the number of. So if every day they're reporting that they found new cases, like today was what? There were 12 new cases or fatalities?
New cases.
No, 12 cases.
And how many fatalities have we had? Well, I was looking at the schedule. But so does it mean like when they don't see any new cases, then we're okay? And the salons can open?
But this has to be no new cases for a week, 10 days, before they start relaxing the rules.
I mean, just to give you guys some insight on Khairan, or the people that get out of the quarantine.
They got out, no?
They get out, but what happens is you have to get tested and prove that you don't have the virus. And then you have to go back in quarantine for 48 hours and they test you again in order to get out. And that's with like no human contact so that you can actually get out. These are for the people that were in Khairan, that were in the hotels. Right now, out of these 12 cases, I believe most of them came from the UK. If I'm not mistaken, from what I've read, is majority of them came from the UK. And, going back to conspiracies, we don't know what's legit and what's not.
Or the people that they were in contact with them. One from the UK, one from Spain, one, I don't know, and the people that they were in contact with them. So again, the people who are traveling abroad, either now, even they have to be self-quarantine, or if they come from specific countries, they have to go to Iran or hospitals or whatever to be quarantined, including travelers that are coming from the US.
So now, but the only travelers that are coming right now are just the Kuwaitis. The rest of them are not allowed in, right?
Yeah.
Because the idea is that there's no flights. So it means that they have to bring in the Kuwaitis back, but the rest will have to be stuck wherever they are.
And that's why they are trying to control as much as they can before they start allowing people to come in.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why I don't know when they will, maybe they were thinking another 2 weeks. I mean, the 2 weeks that they'll open the airport, but I'm not sure if that's even a possibility right now. Because then as soon as you open the airport, that's it. You're allowing yourself to be vulnerable again, where more people are coming from countries that are not doing the extreme measures that we're doing. And, makes the country vulnerable. See, that's the problem. The problem, if everyone in the world would be doing the same measures, if they had the swab, if they have the test, and now we have that new machine that we got this testing, the testing kit that can test for the virus within like a couple of days or a couple of hours. And my friend who is doctor in the ministry, she said that this thing is pretty expensive. So it was nice that the country was able to buy. But if we're doing all this and then someone else comes from another country who hasn't like done all the measures and then we're back to square one. So hopefully.
No, but that's why they are going into the quarantine program. The obligatory one, but also there is the home quarantine or self-quarantine. So they are putting like strict guidelines. The only thing, people have to respond positively to these efforts.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also teaching us to have a different lifestyle. And it's putting things in perspective on how the future should be. Maybe we'll all start being all virtual. Everything will be virtual and we'll have no human contact, which is very sad, to be honest.
Hey, I'm enjoying it.
If we're going to do another two months, I know, but then that means another month. Like, did you read? There is you can't have any weddings. You can't have any like family gatherings. And you can't like be able to greet them, hug them or shake their hand. So pretty soon we're going to be isolated more and more if this continues. Granted, it's for a good reason, but psychological perspective, I think this is really causing more people to, especially people that really need that human contact, that love being with other people. Their sense of identity is all about being liked by their family members or that union. And don't forget that Ramadan is coming, and Ramadan is all about spending time with family, and it's all about gathering. And now this is going to put a different perspective. Believe me, we're going to get used to being by ourselves, and we're going to be more used to doing things virtual, which is going to create the same thing that, a lot of people talked about Facebook and social media and how social media was created to connect us to people, our relatives and friends who are far away. But actually it created more people that were isolated. So now this is just feeding in more to it.
Yeah, I understand this part, to be honest, but I always look at the positive side. We have electricity and we have water
and we have food.
Yeah. But can you imagine if there is no, seriously, if there is no electricity, forget the phones, forget the connection. We have internet. Imagine if there is no internet. So we are, despite the extreme measures or the environment or circumstances we are dealing with, we are still blessed. We still have what we need in order to survive in terms of basic needs.
Yeah, it's very true, very true. And you probably, know a lot of people from other countries who doesn't even have I was very surprised how the internet and the connection here has been very strong and good. Have you noticed that? Like, we haven't had a lot of interruptions.
Hey, I've been podcasting hard lately, so the internet's been awesome.
Yes. Yeah. I was wondering, why is the internet so awesome? Because a lot of people are using it, but it's been very awesome, to be honest. I don't want to jinx it, but it's, so you're right, Dr. Ali. It's like probably in a lot of countries, they don't even have this access where the internet goes and comes, and not everyone has internet at home. And where they used to go to the cafe to get internet, like they used to do in Iraq and a lot of, in Syria and Jordan. Like a lot of times these internet are not Wi-Fi in your house. So we're pretty privileged, actually. And thanks to that, it's true.
I think we're blessed. So let's keep looking at the positive side. Inshallah, by Ramadan, these things will... at least the rate of infection will be much less. We are trained to take care of ourselves and maintaining good hygiene and whatever measures we are taking right now. And I think we can do it.
It's so funny. We're teaching people how to go to the basics because we have lost touch of basics. So we needed this crash course so that way we can start remembering what it feels like to wash your hands and to clean yourself, and things that we're teaching people now, they should have known when they were kids. And so sometimes nature is teaching us a lesson that maybe we have lost perspective on things and we've lost things that we should be knowing. So, I think nature has its own way. So it's good. Thank you so much, Dr. Ali. We really appreciate
Dr.
your
Ali.
knowledge.
Thank you.
And we know
Thank
you're
you for
very,
giving
very
me
busy.
this opportunity. So I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Actually, we love to have you back.
Yeah, you better come back on here in a couple of weeks and give us a biological update from a science perspective.
I'll be more than happy to do so. Just let me know.
Amazing.
Yes. And when we go back to the university, I'm going to that lab. And I have to sit in one of your lectures for sure.
Okay. All right, Dr. Lilia.
Thank you,
Mahdi. Thank you, Dr. Lilia.
Dr. Charara, on another note, you're the one professor or the one biology teacher that actually said after 50 minutes or 45 minutes, I think your brain shuts off from learning.
True.
You gave us all a break in our hour and 15-minute class. I'll never forget that. It was that 5-minute break. And it was like, you guys get to reboot right now. So thank you. One of the best professors.
You're sharing a lot of Dr. Ali's secrets I'm going to use when I go back.
He's a neurologist. Of course he knows that our brains shut off.
I'm not saying this because you're on podcast, and Dr. Ali's been, at AUK as long as I have. I think he was there a year before me, but amazing person. Every time a student says Dr. Ali, the second word that comes out, he's an amazing person. He's so caring. I love Dr. Ali. So you've got a lot of great qualities, to be honest. I'm so happy to have you as my boss and my colleague, and to be honest, so thank you. And I know you're so busy with all this stuff now, trying to figure out what to do with UNIT and what to do with our students. But thank you for your time. I appreciate you accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.